Hey, what is up, guys? The Strong Boys 19 here. So I apologize for the very bright lighting in this video, but this is an extremely late response to CountBlagorath's video, where he made a video called "What Records in Your Collection Mean the Most to You," and that really got me thinking. After I saw that video, it got me inspired and think about doing this response. And I know he did that video a year ago, but I am finally here to do it. Let's jump right into it. Let's start off with the albums that really take me back to my childhood, up to my years before I became a teenager. So, Slipknot, Volume 3, The Subliminal Verses. This was at the time when I really wanted to get into Slipknot a lot more after seeing the Duality music video and the Before I Forget music video. I remember listening to other songs like The Blister Exists, Vermilion, Pulse of the Maggots. This was one of the times that I was introducing myself to my favorite band. The next one, Sepultura, Chaos AD. Again, around the same time when I was getting into Slipknot. This was one of the coolest and taking back memories type of albums that I remember listening to a lot. I was adoring this album cover so much. I thought it was just one of the coolest stuff ever. And the music, the production, the songs, the overall sound, just some of my favorite times. This was almost my favorite metal album of all time. Eminem, the Marshall Mathers LP, and I remember Dad was listening to Eminem, and despite the very heavy, deep, vulgar lyrical content, I remember loving the beats to the very memorable choruses, the way Eminem raps. I still love this album. Other two are records. This is Meatloaf's Bad Out of Hell. Bad Out of Hell was really one of the first albums I have listened to as a whole. I remember when me, my dad and my brother decided to listen to this when we are going to the Northfield swimming baths at the time, and to come back home, continue listening to this album. It was so fun. Great, beautiful, strong musicianship and incredible vocals from Meatloaf. It just makes me smile. And this other one, this is Simon and Garfunkel's Bridge Over Troubled Water. I have never heard a group like Simon and Garfunkel that has some of the most beautiful and very smooth sounding vocal harmonies. I remember hearing the Sounds of Silence a lot, but when I hear Bridge Over Troubled Water, songs like the title track, of course, to the Boxer, and I still love Simon and Garfunkel. Now, this next album takes me to a much more later period, through albums that got me into different genres. The first one, Satyricon Dark Medieval Times. And the reason why I put this album in this video is because of CountBlagorath himself. I remember a live stream that he was a guest of with a YouTuber named Absent Productions before he stopped making videos now. But one of the questions that I asked to Sean during that live stream, like, what were the top 5 black metal albums that he'd recommend? And he pulled out this. Immediately the album cover blew me away. And when I listened to it, I could not believe what I was hearing. I just find this album to be the greatest and the most amazing black metal album I've ever listened to. And I just want to say thank you so much to CountBlagorath for recommending these black metal albums for me to get into the genre as a whole. Ever since this album, I have discovered Burzum to Dark Throne and, Death Heaven and other bands, Triptychon, Nails, and other metal genres. But black metal I wanted to know at the time, and this one really caught my eye. Now, a couple of other CDs. These do make me smile so much. These two, Ailstorm Back Through Time and Claim the Throne Forged in Flame. These two were at the time when I met Ailstorm, Claim the Throne, and another band, Darkest Era, at the Slade Rooms venue at Wolverhampton. Before I met Ailstorm, I made a video of my top 3 albums of 2011, and I placed this album at number 1. And surprisingly, out of the blue, they have made a really nice, positive video of them saying that they were really happy to see this album as my number 1 album of that year. And they have invited me, Callum, and my father to the Slade Rooms venue to meet them for the first time. And it was just an amazing experience. And they decided to sign this CD copy of Back Through Time and the Leviathan EP, which I have, and decided to give me the first 2 albums to me for free. And it was just one of the best experiences of my life. So, from the bottom of my heart, Ailstorm, thank you so much. Now, for Claim the Throne, I have discovered Claim the Throne from my best friend Callum, previously known as Moon's Horror 15, and he recommended this band to me, besides Ailstorm, and I really liked what I was listening to. And I have my CD copy of Claim the Throne's album Triumph and Beyond, and I did review that album, and their support was just some of the best, and they're one of the most humble and best guys I've ever met, and they have decided to have both my YouTube channel name and Callum's channel name at the back of this album booklet. So, just like Ailstorm, thank you so much to Claim the Throne. It just means the world to me. And I haven't bought your new album yet, guys, and I promise that I will come back and purchase your new album. And from what I've heard, it sounds really good. And for those of you that want to get into melodic death metal with folk metal elements from Australia, Claim the Throne could be the band for you. And this album's just still amazing. The next 2 are 2 EPs from Fury, the Burn the Earth EP and their self-titled EP. I bumped into a musician who later became a friend of mine called Alistair Davis, and he is the drummer from this band. And he recommended Fury's stuff to me, and I really liked what I was listening to, and I decided to randomly do a band promotion video. Again, like Ailstorm, they did see that video, and I was invited to see Fury live at the Mars Bar, Worcester, for the first time. Got to meet the band. This was when Joel Peters was in the band, before they replaced Joel with Jake Beasley. And speaking of Fury, they've made their debut called The Lightning Dream, and they've made another album called Lost in Space. If you want to check out some heavy speed thrash metal, I highly recommend you guys to listen to Fury. They are absolutely fantastic. Now, a big pile of records for me to show. This is definitely the one that means the most to me. Well, one of them. This is John Lennon's Plastic Ono Band. For me, personally, this is the best solo album that I've ever listened to. And I have been going through a bit of dark times in my life. The vocals, so emotional, powerful and raw. The lyrics and the sheer emotional vibe of this album was just so spectacular. And it's one of the perfect reasons why John Lennon's my favourite musician, hence it's at number 2 of my favourite albums of all time. But this one really, really spoke to me personally and musically. It's one of the albums that got me inspired to become a songwriter because of this album. I still cherish it to this very day. The next one, Kraftwerk, The Man Machine. Now, one of my friends, Tony, decided to give most of his record collection to me for free. And once again, thank you so much, Tony. And I did make a video of that last year. But there were 2 albums from Kraftwerk that caught my eye. One was this one and Autobahn. Autobahn, still a fantastic album. But when I came across an album cover like this, and when I put it on, totally addicted, and my brain was just brainwashed from how original and so incredible their music had become for my music taste. And ever since that time, my mind was really hooked on Kraftwerk's music, and it got me introduced to another band that is hugely important as pioneers of a totally different genre, which was electronic music. And Kraftwerk is now one of my top 5 all-time favorite bands, and this just takes me back so much. The next one, this is Pink Floyd's Wish You Were Here. And the reason why this album is in the list, I mean, I never came across a progressive rock album that is really important, personal, and it was one of the albums that left me speechless when I first listened to this. From the moodiness of it to the vocals, the sound was so gorgeous. From Shine On You Crazy Diamond to the last half of that track, other songs like Wish You Were Here. Wish You Were Here means a lot to me so much. It's one of my top all-time favourite songs, and to make an album that is a homage and a concept based on their former bandmate, it's just so special and heartwarming. But this one really was the prog record that got me introduced to a really conceptual vibe of music, and I absolutely love everything about this album. The next one, this really needs no introduction. It's the Holy Grail. This is Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band by the Beatles. This is the original UK mono copy from '67. Obviously, you know what I'm going to say, that this album totally changed my music taste for all eternity, and it got me interested to know about a very different and artistic variety era of music. And this was at the time when I loved the Beatles, but actually didn't listen to all of their later stuff. I know that sounds blasphemous. Yeah, you just heard it for the first time. But this one really opened the gates for me to love a bigger range of music. This next one is a solo album. This is Bob Dylan, Blonde on Blonde. And the reason why Blonde on Blonde is included, it is because that Bob Dylan as a musician really connects with me, and he got me motivated almost entirely to become a singer-songwriter and musician. And Blonde on Blonde blew me away when I listened to this. This has some of his greatest poetry ever written. You got Visions of Johanna to Leopard Skin Pillbox Hat and I Want You. So many amazing gems on this album. This means the most to me because I remember playing this constantly and become so inspired by how imaginative and really deep Bob Dylan had become from this period of his career. So Blonde on Blonde means the most to me for those reasons. Now, these two records were recommendations from a friend of mine and an incredible, phenomenal guitar player named Melvin, who I've mentioned before from my Sparks review. He recommended two artists, which are Frank Zappa and the Mothers of Invention, and Captain Beefheart and his Magic Band. Even though I did mention a friend of mine from Canada called Larry Graves, who is a big fanatic of both Zappa and Beefheart, but Melvin were one of the first people that got me introduced to these two artists. Frank Zappa and the Mothers of Invention with We're Only In It For The Money. This album got me into the weirder, out of the ordinary, very crazy side of experimental music, and I wanted to know some more challenging music, and this one opened the gates for me. I still love this album because of how weird, I would say artistic, this album had become. So this one got me to the weirder side of experimental music, and Frank Zappa's music really got me interested to know about experimental music as a whole. But with Trav Replica was the album that stopped me in my tracks. My mind was so not into this when I first listened to it. Ever since, my music taste has been a big variety of different genres, but Trav Replica was one of the first albums, along with Frank Zappa and the Mothers, that opened the gates for me to come across some more music that was really, really new to me, but I ended up loving. So that is that. I hope I did explain my reasons good enough for you guys, and definitely check out CountBlagorath. He's one of my biggest favourite people on YouTube. I will leave a link in the description below. He makes amazing videos. He does other things like rants to album reviews, collection updates. His collection of his metal stuff, so huge and really, really massive. Amazing guy as well. Awesome YouTuber that I recommend. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll keep you guys posted for more videos in the near future.